Industry Minister Kim Jong-un and U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick will meet again on Friday local time, after failing to narrow their differences on tariffs on South Korean goods the previous day. Trade Minister Yo Han-go will join Kim in convincing the Trump administration that South Korea will implement an agreed-upon investment deal. The U.S. Treasury Department has once again retained South Korea on its currency monitoring list, a designation that experts say is unlikely to have much impact on Korea's foreign exchange market. Team Korea is off to Italy for the 2026 Winter Olympics in northern Italy, with the goal of bringing home at least 3 gold medals. Talks between South Korea and the U.S. over President Donald Trump's renewed threat to impose 25% tariffs on South Korean products will resume in Washington on Friday, after the first round of negotiations on Thursday concluded without a firm agreement. Our Moon Hae-ryun starts us off.
South Korea's top trade officials are mounting an urgent diplomatic push in Washington as the Trump administration signals it may reinstate steep tariffs on Korean goods. Industry Minister Kim Jong-un met U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick on Thursday local time, though the two sides failed to reach an immediate agreement. Trade Minister Yo Han-go is due to meet U.S. Trade Representative Jamieson Greer on Friday, forming a coordinated response by Korea's trade leadership. The tariff threat appears to stem from U.S. frustration over delays in South Korea's domestic legislation, tied to last year's trade deal and a $350 billion investment pledge. Minister Kim arrived at the Commerce Department around 5 p.m. and left about an hour and a half later, telling reporters the talks were extensive but inconclusive, with a follow-up meeting scheduled for Friday morning. Asked whether the tariff hike had been blocked, Kim said it was not a matter of having stopped or stopped it, adding that no final conclusion had been reached. Kim said he made clear that Korea remains firmly committed to implementing agreed investments, including the special investment bill, and sought to persuade Washington not to reinstate the tariffs. Trade Minister Ya, ahead of his departure, said the goal of the visit is to assess both the U.S. administration's stance and congressional dynamics, while seeking a reasonable solution to prevent the tariff hike. He plans to explain Korea's political situation and discuss broader trade issues, including digital regulation. The diplomatic scramble comes as President Trump warns that U.S. tariffs could become much steeper, saying current measures were already generous and vital to national security. Speaking at a White House cabinet meeting, Trump argued tariffs have brought in hundreds of billions of dollars and insisted he has no intention of giving that up. As negotiations resume in Washington, this week is shaping up as a critical test, both a challenge and an opportunity for Seoul to prevent another escalation in Korea-U.S. trade tensions. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
In the meantime, the U.S. has once again kept South Korea on its foreign exchange monitoring list, pointing to ongoing trade and current account surpluses with Washington. Our Park Jun-han has the details.
The United States has kept South Korea on its foreign exchange monitoring list. In its semi-annual report to Congress released Thursday local time, the U.S. Treasury listed Korea among 10 other countries, including China, Japan, and Germany, for heightened scrutiny over macroeconomic and exchange rate policies. Under the 2015 Trade Facilitation and Trade Enforcement Act, the U.S. Treasury Department monitors its trading partners using 3 critical benchmarks. First, a bilateral trade surplus with the U.S. exceeding $15 billion. Second, a current account surplus of 3% or more of the nation's GDP. And third, a persistent one-sided intervention in the foreign exchange market. One-sided intervention requires net purchases of foreign currency conducted repeatedly in at least 8 out of 12 months, totaling at least 2% of an economy's GDP. Currently, South Korea has flagged 2 of these 3 indicators. While the trade surplus remains $52 billion and the current account surplus sits comfortably at 5.9%, the third criterion, market intervention, has not yet been met. South Korea was removed from the list in late 2023 but was put back on it in November 2024 and remains there under the latest assessment. An economics professor said the impact on Korea's foreign exchange market would be minimal.
Being designated as a currency monitoring country is not a major issue, as this has been the case for a while. the U.S. preference for a weaker dollar ultimately comes down to exports. It is part of a broader push to revive domestic manufacturing.
In response, the Blue House said the Korean financial authorities will maintain close communication with the U.S. Treasury Department, adding that the U.S. report reaffirms the Korean currency's depreciation against the greenback is not in line with Korea's strong economic fundamentals. 박준환, Arirang News.
South Korea's industrial output marked its slowest pace of growth in 5 years last year, while consumption regained ground for the first time in 4 years. Ian Jin reports.
South Korea's industrial output in 2025 marked its weakest growth in 5 years, while consumption rebounded to positive levels for the first time in 4 years. According to data from the Ministry of Statistics and Data released on Friday, in December alone, industrial output rose 1.5% from the previous month and 1.8% from a year earlier. Following a 1.1% decline in 2020, when production contracted amid the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic, total industrial output has risen for 4 consecutive years. 5% in 2021, 4.8% in 2022, 1.1% in 2023, and 1.5% in 2024. Production in the mining and manufacturing sector, considered the backbone of the economy, gained 1.6% in 2025, while the main drive behind last year's industrial output was semiconductors, which rose by 13.2% on year. Amid the boom of artificial intelligence, it was the surge in chip demand that contributed largely to keeping overall output figures at positive levels. Meanwhile, retail sales, a key indicator of private consumption, turned positive after 3 consecutive years of shrinking, increasing 0.9% on month, mainly supported by higher sales of clothing, food, and beverages. The ministry says growth was particularly strong in the third quarter of 2025, boosted by government-issued consumption coupons. The cyclical component of the coincident composite index, which reflects current economic conditions, fell by 0.2 points from the previous month, while the cyclical component of the composite leading indicator, which signals future economic conditions, rose by 0.6 points compared to the previous month. Jin, Arirang News.
President Lee Jae-myung believes entrepreneurship is a key to expanding opportunities for future generations here in the country. Let's take a listen.
우리 대한민국 국민들은 정말 뛰어난 역량을 가지고 있습니다. 교육 수준도 그렇고 또 성실함이나 또 집요함, 손기술, 그러니까 뭐 기능이죠. 또 사회적인 인프라, 모든 여건들이 아주 좋은데 전통적인 방식으로 평범하게 좋은 일자리를 만들어내는 건 한계가 있는 것 같습니다.
Now, these remarks were shared on this Friday at the Blue House during a strategy meeting on supporting startups. The president also maintained that deepening economic polarization had weighed on growth and narrowed job opportunities for the young. Accordingly, to encourage entrepreneurship, the Ministry of SMEs and Startups will host a televised competition featuring 100 aspiring entrepreneurs this year. The winner will receive prize money and venture investment worth over 1 billion won. South Korea and Japan have agreed to institutionalize their defense cooperation by holding annual ministerial meetings. At meeting in Yokosuka on Friday, Defense Minister Ang Kyu-baek and Japanese Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi pledged to maintain close coordination for regional peace and stability. Key outcomes of their meeting include the resumption of the Naval Search and Rescue Exercise, or SAREX, and an agreement to explore cooperation in advanced defense technologies, including AI, unmanned systems, and outer space. A Ministry of National Defense official also stated that Minister An proposed a reciprocal visit by Minister Koizumi to maintain this momentum, emphasizing the need to transform the bilateral relationship into a truly close, future-oriented partnership. As a U.S. carrier strike group arrives in the Middle East and U.S. President Donald Trump warns he may strike Iran, fears of a wider war are growing once again. Iran has responded by threatening U.S. military bases across the Middle East if there's any military action against Iran. Cha Young-kyung has more.
Military tensions are rising between the U.S. and Iran, as U.S. President Donald Trump has deployed a military aircraft used to detect radioactive particles and an aircraft carrier group to the Middle East. The Telegraph reported on Friday that a U.S. Air Force plane known as the Nuke Sniffer had landed in Britain. The USAF WC-135R Constant Phoenix jet, designed to monitor radioactive material in the atmosphere, touched down at RAF Mildenhall, a joint-use military air base in Suffolk, southeastern England. The arrival comes amid increasing speculation that the U.S. may be weighing military action against Iran, following attacks on Iran's nuclear facilities last June. On Wednesday local time, as American military assets continued to build up across the Middle East, President Trump warned Iran that time was running out to sign a new deal, barring it from developing nuclear weapons.
And by the way, there's another beautiful armada floating beautifully toward Iran right now. So we'll see. I hope they make a deal.
Iran has warned that it would target U.S. military bases across the Middle East if there was any military action against it, saying any strike would prompt an immediate and forceful response. Iranian officials have publicly dismissed U.S. threats, saying talks cannot take place under pressure. Iran has placed its Air Force and missile units, along with around 1,000 sea and land-based drones, on high alert and has announced military exercises that many interpret as a clear warning to the U.S. Iran's army chief said the country's drone forces and extensive ballistic missile arsenal could deliver a crushing response to any attack. Cha Young-kyo, Arirang News.
AI Tower 2026, a global forum exploring how artificial intelligence is reshaping urban systems, infrastructure, and industries, opened in the capital on Friday. Our To Young-eun was there.
Under the theme The Transformation Era Beyond Adoption, AI Seoul 2026 highlighted tangible changes driven by artificial intelligence in city operations and industrial innovation. Sharing its vision to become a global leader in physical AI, Seoul unveiled a comprehensive citywide strategy spanning infrastructure, industrial development, and everyday applications.
Technology must ultimately serve people, and the physical AI leading city that Seoul envisions is a city that creates the warmest change with the coldest technology.
Global CEOs and academic leaders led insight sessions, offering perspectives on how AI is shaping Seoul's future, as the city announced plans to establish a Seoul Physical AI Belt, linking Yangjae AI Tech City for AI talent and companies with the Susa robot cluster. By 2030, a central facility will be completed to enable testing and demonstrations of autonomous robots and advanced AI technologies. In line with this vision, Seoul plans to transform downtown areas into large-scale physical AI testbed and invest 100 billion won, or about $70 million by 2030. Among the keynote speakers was Carlo Lotti, director of the MIT Sensible City Lab, who underscores Seoul's potential to emerge as a global hub for AI-powered urban innovation.
Every time I come here, I'm amazed about all the excitement about here people have at AI, how much the city is investing in this. And because of this, I think Seoul can really be an ideal testbed for really testing new technologies and urban futures.
The conference also showcased the outcomes of Seoul's AI transition efforts over the past year, building on the roadmap set out at last year's forum. As Seoul builds smarter infrastructure, some of the innovations seen at this event, from autonomous buses to fire patrol robots, could become part of everyday life over the next decade. To Young-eun, Arirang News.
With the Winter Olympics set to begin soon, South Korea's team departed for Italy today. Now, this time, the nation's official goal is 3 gold medals and a top 10 finish. Our Kim Do-yeon has this report.
South Korea's delegation departed for Italy on Friday to compete in the 2026 Milano Cortina Winter Olympics. Dressed in official white tracksuits, the 130-member delegation, including 71 athletes, competing in 6 disciplines, headed to the departure gates ahead of the Games. As always, short track remains the country's primary medal hope. Team captain Choi Min-jung is challenging for her 3rd consecutive individual Olympic gold, while the men's and women's relay teams are aiming to reclaim the top spot for the first time in 20 and 8 years respectively.
I believe the best approach is to demonstrate everything I've prepared. As mentioned, since I serve as the captain of both the short track team and the national delegation, I feel a deep sense of responsibility. It is my hope that not only myself, but the entire short track team and the South Korean delegation as a whole achieve strong results.
In other events, teenage snowboarder Choi Ga-eun is set for a high-profile matchup against Korean-American Chloe Kim in the halfpipe, while the speed skating and figure skating teams are also targeting podium finishes.
Speed skating did not secure a gold medal in Beijing, so we will work hard to ensure we bring one home this time.
The Korea Sport and Olympic Committee has set an official target of 3 gold medals and a top 10 finish in the overall standings. Officials believe exceeding that goal is possible if the short track team performs well and unexpected medals are secured in other events. Upon arrival, the athletes will move into the Olympic villages in Milan and Cortina to begin final conditioning and acclimatization. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
K-pop girl group BLACKPINK's Rosé will perform at the Grammy Awards ceremony slated for Sunday local time. The Recording Academy said Thursday that Rosé had been named an official performer for the 68th ceremony. Now, this will mark the first time a K-pop artist has performed solo on the Grammy stage. Her collaborative single Apatu with pop star Bruno Mars earned 3 nominations, namely a Record of the Year, Song of the Year, and Best Pop Duo/Group Performance. Meanwhile, Korean music label HYBE's US-based girl group Cat's Eye will also perform that day after being nominated for Best New Artist. It's been about a year since Korean temple food was designated a national intangible cultural heritage. Since then, the rising popularity has been drawing attention from audiences around the globe. For more on this trend, our culture correspondent Park Konu joins us in the studio. Happy Friday, Konu.
Great to be here, Dami.
So, Konu, as far as we remember, you've been giving our viewers a closer look at Korean temple food. Tell us more.
I have. So, after speaking with the monk Venerable Sun Jae and going to these places where they have amazing temple food, I just got to know why so many people are drawn to temple food these days. And that's because it's not just about taste, but it's also about how food reflects ideas of sustainability that's grabbing global attention. Officials even say that more and more people of the younger generations are willing to experience temple food. But before I tell you more, let's go straight to the scene and see how popular temple food is.
Long preserved for centuries, Korean temple food is no longer enjoyed only by monks, but by food lovers from around the world. This growing interest can be partially seen at a temple cuisine restaurant in Seoul, operated by the Choge Order of Korean Buddhism, where reservations are often fully booked, including by visitors from abroad.
Today, it's a little bit similar to Japanese traditional food. It tastes more some taste of kimchi. This a little bit spicy food, but it was very delicious. And yeah, I love this delicate taste of this temple food.
Temple cuisine is also drawing strong interest from visitors outside of Asia.
What I think about is that everything is made with a lot of consciousness. I think the idea of food and also of the connection to the rest of the world, that everything is connected. Yeah. But this temple food was first time, but we will take it with us, of course, this idea, and we'll look for any opportunity also in Germany.
So it may seem like a lot of food and slightly different from what monks would normally eat in a single meal. But what we have here is a wide variety of traditional temple dishes. And one standout feature is that they don't use pungent vegetables, including garlic and green onions, nor do they use artificial seasonings. So let's give it a try.
A wide variety of temple food includes whitewater kimchi, believed to aid digestion, winter spinach with sweet persimmon, crispy glazed mushrooms that surprisingly taste like meat, and buckwheat jelly with spicy kimchi. Bite after bite, slurp after slurp, diners keep tasting, some even lifting their bowls to finish every last drop. Thanks to its global popularity, temple food is also attracting more visitors from abroad, many traveling to Korea just to learn more about it. Building on this momentum, the Cultural Corps of Korean Buddhism is preparing to sign collaborative agreements to introduce temple food at prestigious culinary schools overseas, including the Culinary Institute of America.
Temple food is becoming so important because people recognize simplicity and the power of it. In a world full of industrial, Western, processed food, we want a healthy body and a healthy spirit with a healthy community, so that we can co-create a healthy world. And I would hope that all types of cuisines and culinary schools work towards that objective.
The Cultural Corps of Korean Buddhism even says reservations for temple food making classes are often fully booked weeks in advance. At the same time, the Choge Order of Korean Buddhism is pushing to have temple food listed as UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. With tradition, philosophy, and growing global interest coming together, Korean temple food is now stepping onto the world stage.
Kanu, aren't there more efforts to promote Korean temple food, specifically Korean temple food?
Right. So the Cultural Corps of Korean Buddhism says that interest in temple food is now extending beyond dining and now focusing on education and hands-on experiences. It also said around 100,000 foreign nationals have taken part in temple food cooking programs over the past decade, prompting them to further expand such classes. You can also check the official website if you want to try making temple food yourself at just under $20. Classes require advanced reservations, as registration for the following month typically opens at the beginning of the previous month. An official at the Cultural Corps of Korean Buddhism also says they are continuing efforts in various ways.
We run regular education programs and professional certification systems to strengthen temple food. Through cultural centers and festivals, we've expanded opportunities for the public to experience it, while also working with overseas culinary institutions.
Cooperation with international culinary institutions includes Le Cordon Bleu in France and the Hmong. We just heard from added that more temple stay programs will be linked with temple food experiences in the future, allowing people to understand temple food not just as cuisine, but as a way of life.
That's impressive. Now, Kanu, how's the project to list temple food on the UNESCO Cultural Heritage going so far?
Yeah, so I have to cite the Cultural Corps of Korean Buddhism once again. As they say, the effort is being approached as a long-term project with a timeline of 5 to 10 years. And since 2009, Korean Buddhism has been documenting temple food traditions through field research, verbal testimonies of senior monks, and written records, while continuing international exchanges and introductions. Building on these efforts, an international academic symposium on temple food is scheduled again this August, following last year's event, to further discuss its cultural value on a global level.
Kanu, thank you so much for sharing this interesting and impressive story tonight. Thanks for coming in.
Always a pleasure.
Even though cold wave warnings and advisories are still covering parts of the central regions, 전라북도 and 경상북도 provinces, this long stretch of bitter cold is finally starting to wind down. Starting tomorrow afternoon, temperatures will gradually rise as the cold air fades away. Seoul's morning temperature is expected to drop to -11 degrees Celsius, similar to today. However, by daytime, temperatures in many areas, including Seoul, will climb back to above freezing. From Sunday, temperatures are expected to return to seasonal averages. Most areas will have a cold morning tomorrow with Chuncheon at -14 degrees, Gyeongju at -8 degrees. Highs will rise to 1 degree in Seoul, 6 degrees in Daegu and Gyeongju. Between early Sunday and Monday, light snow of around 1 centimeter is forecast for central regions and parts of the Jeollado provinces. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is all we have for tonight. I'm Kim Dami. From all of us here at Arirang, thanks for watching and good night.